etiology and pathogenesis. What is etiology? From the word, idea means cause, logy means studying. So etiology means the studying of the causes of disease. But not only causes, we are studying causes and conditions of disease. Causes and conditions. You have to know now from this class, from this topic, that among multiple causes which can lead to disease, there is one cause is the main cause, and other causes and other factors are conditions. Repeat again. You have to know that among multiple factors which lead to disease, one is the main cause. We call it causative factor. Other factors are conditions. For example, what is the cause of influenza? The cause of influenza is virus influenza. But what is the condition for developing of influenza? Conditions are cold weather, for example, weak immune system, bad feeding, like this. This we call conditions, but I cannot say that the cause of influenza is weak immune system. This is condition. Other example, causative factor of tuberculosis is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. But the conditions for tuberculosis, cold weather, a weak immune system, and so on. So, causative factor we divide it into exogenous and endogenous. Exogenous, they are coming to our body from outside. We divide it into biological, chemical, mechanical, social, physical. Biological, for example, microbes, chemical, drugs and poisoning, mechanical, traumas, social, bad words, physical, for example, atmospheric temperature, burning, when it's high temperature, burning, or cold, very cold temperature, it can cause also burning, but cold burning. Atmospheric pressure. Also, it could be causative factor of disease. For example, when we are in high mountains, we could get disease. We call it high altitude disease due to low atmospheric pressure. And the opposite also in the deep of the earth, of the land. Endogenous. All factors which we have inside our body, and they are primary disorders, they could lead to diseases. For example, primary disorders of immune system, primary disorders of neurohumoral systems, primary disorders of acid-base balance, it means acid-base imbalance, water electrolyte imbalance. This is endogenous factors. So scientists suggest that causative factor has four criteria of causative factor. First one, causative factor before disease. Cause, then disease. Are you agree? First cause and then disease. It could not be disease and then cause. Parallelism means parallel relation between heavity of causative factor and severity of disease. What does it mean? If the causative factor more hard, so the severity of disease will be more strong or more heavy causative factor, so disease will be more severity. Then, if we know if we remove causative factor, so we can remove disease. It means we can treat disease. And last one, if we know causative factor, so we can create disease on animals in experiment. This is four criteria of causative factor of any disease. Understood. Let us take one example to understand what I said about cause and conditions. Also, conditions, they are divided into two types, also exogenous and endogenous, and also conditions divided into two types: helper conditions which lead to disease, and preventive conditions which doesn't lead to disease, which prevent development of disease. For example, for influenza conditions, helper conditions is cold weather, weak immune system. Preventive conditions, the opposite: hot weather, good immune system. Let us take example. In this room, we put rat, and rat. We have 3 rooms. Here, I have virus of influenza, for example, and conditions are helper. So this is cold weather. I didn't feed rat and so on. In next room, we have virus, but conditions are preventive conditions. In third room, no virus, but conditions are helper. They lead to what disease. What will happen in every room? In first room, rat will have disease. In next room,
No disease.
it could be 50-50. It will be dependent into other conditions. 50-50. Maybe he will get disease, maybe not. In third room, no disease at all. Will not be disease at all because we have no causative factor. So the main factor is causative factor. Finish with this. Pathogenesis. Pathogenesis. What is pathogenesis? Pathos means developing. So pathogenesis means the studying of development of disease, mechanisms of development of disease. I want you to know that any disease, it seems like this, the shape. Causative factor come to our body, causing primary damage of our body, primary damage. Then it will begin pathogenesis with main link number 1. Then main link will lead to link second link, third, fourth, fifth, and while links are developing, the pathogenesis is going and disease is developing. Every link will be as a cause for next link. How many links? It will depend on the disease. Could be 1,000, million. Till what? Till outcome of disease. The links, according to their localization in our body, they can get symptoms. For example, this link is localized in bronchus. We can get symptom cough, according to localization. This relation is positive. Positive for whom? These relations are positive for whom? For us or for disease? These relations are positive for disease. Because while it's developing, that the disease is going in our body. From our body, it must be protection mechanisms. What does it mean? Minus. Our protection mechanisms is try to stop these links in any level to prevent the disease from developing. Look please, any disease, it seems like this. Cause, primary damage, main link of pathogenesis, and then second link, third link, and so on, till outcome, and then symptoms. What is the difference between clean cysts, doctors and pathophysiologists. What is the difference between doctors in clinics and pathophysiologists? Doctors are looking for this.
Symptoms.
Pathophysiologists are studying this, pathogenesis. And you already know that symptoms from starting of disease are non-specific, if you remember. But later there will be specific symptoms. So doctors like specific symptoms because they can get diagnosis. For pathophysiologists, it's for me no problem. Specific, non-specific. I just studying mechanisms. So I can study the mechanisms of development of any disease and even of any symptoms. And even I can study pathogenesis of outcomes of diseases with pathogenesis by knowing of pathogenesis. In some cases, in pathogenesis, one of the later links from here, by its site, by its localization, it can stimulate or progress one of the links from the start. One of the links from later, it can stimulate one of the early links of pathogenesis. And then will develop a closed closed cycle. We call this cycle Phageous cycle. Phageous cycle. When the disease is developed itself by a closing cycle like this. We will take example. To understand the studying of pathogenesis, why we need pathogenesis. Let us take example. In case of heavy burning, why this patient can get unconsciousness state? In heavy burning, why this patient can be unconsciousness? How do you think? Why in case of heavy burning, the patient can get unconsciousness? How do you think? Let us take by the pathogenesis. Burning, what is the cause? Temperature. Yes, high temperature. It's causing burning. Then, primary damage, what is it? Burning. Yes? Primary damage is burning. Then, main link. Main link is pain. We will feel pain. It will be heavy pain. Pain stimulants or impulses of pain, it will carry into our brain. It will inhibit vasomotor center. It will inhibit vasomotor center. Vasomotor center regulate our vessel tonus of vessels to dilate or to contract our vessels. If vasomotor center will be inhibited, so our vessels will be dilated. It will cause vasodilation. Understood? Then, if our vessels will be dilated, our blood pressure will be low, decreasing blood pressure, hypotension. It will lead to hypoxia. Hypoxia in organs and mainly hypoxia of brain. Hypoxia of brain will lead to what? Unconsciousness. Understood? This is pathogenesis of unconsciousness in case of burning. That's why studying of pathogenesis is very useful for doctors in medicine, because we know all links. Here I can find for you example of vicious cycle. For example, hypoxia of brain, it will increase inhibition of vasomotor center. Understood? Hypoxia of brain, it can progress vasomotor center inhibition. And then we will have closed cycle. according to studying of causative factor, etiology, and pathogenesis, we doctors discover three types of therapy. Three types of therapy. The most effective therapy is etiotropic therapy. Etiotropic therapy. It's directed to remove the cause of disease. Etiotropic therapy. If in some cases we cannot know the main causative factor of disease because some diseases are monoetiological, they have one cause and we know this cause, for example, infectious disease. But in other diseases we cannot know the main causative factor. For example, diabetes, for example, hypertension, and so on. So I cannot find the cause. What I have to do, I can remove the main link of pathogenesis. This therapy, we call it pathogenic therapy. Pathogenic therapy to remove. This is the most common therapy in medicine. Last therapy, and which what the doctors use usually, is to remove the symptoms. We call it symptomatic therapy. So three types of therapy: etiotropic therapy to remove the cause, pathogenic therapy to remove main link to stop the pathogenesis, symptomatic therapy to remove symptoms. And finally, what I wanted to say, what does the meaning of the word syndrome? Syndrome is a combination of different specific symptoms, and they are coming from one pathogenesis. When we separate specific symptoms from one pathogenesis, we can combine it into under one name is syndrome. For example, Down syndrome. For example, diabetic syndrome. There are 6 symptoms. For example, hyperglycemia, glucosuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, polyuria, and dehydration. It means that all patients with diabetes has these 6 symptoms. We call it diabetic syndrome because they are coming from one pathogenesis. This is our topic for today. Thank you very much for your attention, not relation.